What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to our podcast. Micah and Kris here. First thing that we want to say is tomorrow, November 3rd, is Election Day. So please send in your ballots early or send them on Election Day so that the future of our democracy can live on. With that being said, guys, please enjoy our podcast.
You are watching a master at work.
Muscles as well. However, I think endurance is equally important, if not more, because when you hit your top speed, you do start slowing down. And in track, the slowest to slow down will win the race. Meaning that if you slow down the fastest, someone who's holding their form can actually beat you. Because your form and your arms actually get you to the finish line when your legs are dead.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
What are some of, for up-and-coming sprinters and for a lot of, younger sprinters that are just running for fun or just running to kind of get into the sport of track, what do you suggest to them on number one thing is how to have fun with the sport, and number two, how to hold your form as you build that speciality within your events?
Yeah, so I think, for sprinters, like you said, trying to get into the sport and doing it for fun, I think where it starts is just having fun. Like you said, I think that's just the biggest thing. That's where it comes from. For me, I think, running didn't really become like an interest, for me until the junior year of high school. And I was playing football and basketball up until then. Like, I played Pop Warner football when I was like, tackle football when I was like 8 or 9 years old up until I was like 15. Basketball kind of came up in middle school and elementary school up until then as well. And I just think athletes coming up, just trying to enjoy the process. I think, track is one of those sports where it's not really, there's more of a patience that comes with it. You don't get faster in one day. You gotta recover. Sleep is the best recovery. So it's more of like a accumulated sport where you do a lot of workouts and you work on your speed. And then when you hit your event or the event that you like running, or just however the distance, how far you want to, how far you want to run or interested in running, it translates over after a certain amount of time. You start to see your times drop. That means you're getting faster. It carries a lot of patience that comes with track and field. And I think for me, I didn't realize that until, actually recently, like my sophomore year of college. I was kind of like used to playing football and basketball where your results are pretty much every play, or you have to score 2 points or a touchdown, get run, look at how many yards as a running back or whatever it was. But that's kind of like where I would say to the athletes interested in track, just first see if you like running. A lot of people hate running. I think the feeling you get when you're tired, it feels like you're gonna you just can't breathe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I totally understand what people are saying when they don't like running. I think to find a purpose with it, I think that's where you got to start. If you're running to get to a certain, you want to be fast, then you got to do the work, put in the work for it.
Yeah. Before this, I kind of, number one, I researched you, just the type of events that you do. We're not going to do the stats thing. But what are some of the events that you actually like doing?
Great question. So yeah, I would say for me, I've always enjoyed the 100. Now I would say that. So the best event I have enjoyed has been the 200. It's in between that being too slow or being too fast of an event, like it's over too quickly, and being that event where the competition, you can kind of catch up to somebody and hawk someone down. I just feel like that's the event where I have the most fun running. Running the curve is very fun. It feels kind of weird just because you're leaning one side. But when you come off the curve, there's a feeling you get, and it's called a slingshot. So you run, when you come off the curve, you want to start running in the middle of the lane, and you'll feel this kind of slingshot. It'll like slingshot you down the straightaway. So that feeling, I've always felt like the 100 was always just too quick. It's over too quick, in about how fast you are, like 11, between 11 and seconds or less. It's not as fun. You don't have time to really catch somebody necessarily. unlike the 200 where that competition factor is there more so, where you can talk someone down and just and kind of uh, pass somebody, I guess, if you want to call it. But I mean, yeah, I guess the 100 more so interest came for me more so than watching like Olympic athletes, like Usain Bolt and Tyson Gay and Justin Gatlin, Maurice Green. Just but then after doing the 100, I realized I don't really have that kind of definite, full on just breakaways like that speed like that. I have fast twitch, but it's more so over a longer distance.
Yeah, 100%. The one thing that I never told you this until we started working at Stanford.
Mhm.
I also did track and field during high school. One story that I had is we had an invitation, and one of my teammates is talking mad shit.
Mhm.
I was supposed to run the 400 that weekend, and he's talking mad shit like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna beat you, I'm gonna beat you, I'm gonna beat you," and he's just talking mad shit the entire time. So I focus on myself, and that's what track is really about: is focusing on yourself.
Exactly.
And it comes to, and we're coming into the blocks. This is only prelims, and then the finals is the next day. So I end up so we're like side by side. We're 4 and 5. So I love those lanes 4 and 5. It's just right in the middle, and you're not ahead and you're not behind.
Mhm.
So we come to the 300 stretch, and we're doing a 400. By the way, sorry. We're coming to the 300 stretch, and we're coming to the curve. This kid in another school is like, I want to say like 10 meters in front of me. Then it gets to like 15 and 20. He gasses out at the entry point of the 400 block. By the 350-meter mark, I'm kicking. Like that's my final kick. I end up passing about three other guys, and I get to the first part. I think that was like my PR. I think I ran actually 54 that day. Um,
Mhm.
but then but then I turn around, and then I look at my team, and I'm like, and you said what? You said what? What did you say again? Um, Transitioning to your experience, what is one of your greatest track events, like in like one single track event, like kind of one of the best accomplishments that you had within one track event?
So I would say the one event. So this was my freshman year actually. So we had it was at Chabot College in Hayward,
Hmm.
and this is one of those events where the competition. What I mean competition, it was just there. Like every like the there was a group. Everybody was I think there were eight. All eight lanes were filled, and one of my teammates was in my own heat.
Hmm.
Um, and he's like Jonathan Munkholm, which you might have I don't know if you remember him on the roster. Um, he was a triple jumper, long jumper, and he also ran the 200 that day. And yeah, so all the lanes were filled. Come up to the blocks. It was like almost it was pretty hot. It was at least 85 degrees. Um, and so obviously, when it gets hotter, the track feels way hotter. It feels hotter when you're on the
Hmm.
track.
Yeah.
um, at least 10 degrees, maybe 10 degrees hot. And so getting the blocks, I'm ready. We don't really talk any smack. But there's people obviously watching, the event go off. And, the good thing about him, I was in lane, I think one of the farther lanes. So in a 200, it doesn't matter as much. I think I was in lane 6 or 7. He was in lane 4 or 5. So he was pretty close to me. So if I had, when the gun went off, I was actually like my coach would tell me like you're very good at the curve. Like
Oh yeah.
I tend to like excel more on the curve, but the
I feel
trick
like
is
coach says that honestly.
yeah, I feel the same way. I wasn't really sure, but at this race I could see peripherally see where I was amongst the other guys, and I happened to be like in the lead or just pretty much we were all like it was throughout the whole race we were all like it was crazy. You could see all us in a line kind of coming off the curve, all in the same spot.
It's the best.
And that's when you come off the curve and you got to just you pump your arms and you kick and whatever you have left in the tank. And I could see my teammate. I was gaining on him, and I could see him through my peripheral, and it was just crazy because I think I was the shortest guy in that event, like in that heat. And so um I'm getting there, and so we're like neck and neck until the last maybe like 15 meters, which is not very many. But if you, like I said, like going back to if you don't hold your form, you start to slow down and, at a faster pace. And I think, it wasn't until the last, like maybe like 10 meters when he like really started to pass me. So I just, I could see in the corner of my eye. I'm like, that teammate, when you're in the same heat as your teammate, I think that you want to, the competition level just rises. You see like a guy that you pretty much go against every day of practice, or you train with every day of practice. And yeah, he ended up beating me. It was very close though. Our times, I think I ran like a 23.7, like 23 mid, like 23.7. He ran like a 23.5. And so point 0.2 in track obviously is kind of a lot. But it really happened there um, the last 10 meters or so, where I think I kind of my form just started giving out, and he was able to push through. But yeah, that's just one of the times where, like, because that team was just, we were, I think that year, that my freshman year, um, that team was just a lot closer to, as a, we pretty much hang out a lot more. So there was that more of that bonding. There was more a bonding aspect there for that team. So for me, um, I just had more fun in that race, and it was just one of the closest races that I've had, where it comes down to like two guys, the last 10 meters. Sometimes, on 400, it comes, there's usually people that will pass you the last 350, the last 50 meters of a race, because a lot of people start dying. But that was just one of the races that I could think of.
Nice, nice. So we'll move on to our friendship and your relationship professionally with Kris. But when you first went onto the staff at Stanford, what are some of the friendships that you kind of started to have with the other EMs aside from us?
It's a great question. Man, worked with a good amount. Um, let's see here. Um, who do I want to? Robbie. So just I know like there's a lot of the reason I say him just because he was like one of the first people that I think I was partnered up with at a shift. If I remember right, he was like one of my first shifts. He was there, um, and I partnered up with him, or just had been around him for a couple of the shifts. One of my not my first shift, but my early shifts. I think I was with him for a lot of them, and yeah, I mean, I think there's a misconception. I think it wasn't not fun. There's some days where um, I would learn a lot from him, and he'd be very communicative, and when you talk about sports, like if during in the middle of the shift, just talk about sports teams, watch scores, keep track of teams. He'd always ask me about, we'd always talk about certain players and stuff. And I think with him, I definitely learned a lot as far as knowing what to do at certain events, certain shifts, knowing how to work certain shifts. Um, but I think, over time, we got closer just because we would talk about like every shift. I remember like if he was there, we'd always talk about certain sports, certain teams and how they're doing. I know he worked at the Giants, um, and stuff like that. And so I think for him, like over time, uh, I was able to like, we were pretty much like, I had no problem working with him, because I knew he would make it interesting. It wasn't just always, telling me what to do or whatever. Uh, there was some time in between where, we would always, keep track of scores. If it was again a football game, how other teams are playing, NFL scores or whatever. We talk about those as well. So that was one of the I'd say one of the great friendships that I've developed since my time at Stanford. Other than you guys, I've definitely enjoyed working with you guys every day, every time we were at a shift.
I have a different experience with Robbie.
We'll talk about it a different time.
We'll talk about it next episode.
Not recording.
Yeah, we're not. You want to take this over, Kris?
Yeah, I'll take it over. So, just going on top of that, like, we're talking about like how Robbie taught you different shit. Like, we all have different sports. Some of us like a sport better than another sport or a different shift. What is your favorite and least favorite shift working over at Stanford Athletics?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say my least favorite is gymnastics setup. Um, just because there's a lot more. I think it's a lot more structured as far as where you set things up, how you set things up, um, and just overall the size of the equipment is a little heavier, a little bigger than that I think what most of us are used to. I'd say that's the least. It doesn't take actually no, it does take a long time to set that up unless you have
Yeah.
yeah. I forgot. Yeah, no, it definitely takes a while setting that up just because all the setting up the stage, like the mats, um, But when I would do it with you guys, that you guys would make it fun, so that helped. Always helped.
You have
But
to fun on.
yeah, but my favorite event to work, uh, man, um,
I would guess
honestly, what?
I would guess football, right?
Yeah, I definitely honestly would say football. Even though it's a long day, I love like being on the field. We get to go on the field. I just think that's the coolest thing. The stadium is bigger than any other one that usually is any other sport that we worked, and a lot of the time there's a bunch of people in there, and just being on there before kickoff, just looking around and seeing all there's many people around the stadium, just watching the players come out of the tunnel, their uniforms, the helmets, everything. That just that whole atmosphere. I just enjoy that the most, even though it's a long day, and there is a lot to do. Hours before, and then we break down. I just feel like that's the sport where I feel I enjoy the most.
Nice. Um, so we'll get into a little bit about you. You attended Archbishop Mitty High
Yep.
School. Was that in the same league as Fritz as St. Francis, or
Correct. Yeah. So, yeah, it was. That's the WCAL is the name of the league. So West Catholic Athletic League. It's regarded in Northern California, regarded as one of the best leagues for football, I would say, and basketball. Um, yeah. So Fritz was in definitely St. Francis is a there's a rivalry there with St. Francis and Bellarmine College Prep. It was an all boys school. Um, St. Francis was always we would all when our varsity teams would and freshmen and junior varsity teams would play them. It'd always be a close game. Um, and so yeah, that was one of the our school was always looking forward to those games, those Bellarmine College Prep and St. Francis games. I didn't unfortunately didn't I think I saw you know briefly I didn't see Fritz play at all, but I was there. I'd went gone to a few games when there were definitely you know uh, guys that just you could tell. I think he was a quarterback, and so there was definitely some times there where I would see like how good Bellarmine College Prep's quarterback was. You could see the level of talent was pretty for high school football is definitely was good to watch. Was definitely very high, and another team that was always good in that league was Unipro Serra High School in San Mateo. And one of the reasons they get really good athletes over there. I think it's also an all boys school as well. Um, and so yeah, they're known for having a bunch of Samoan guys on their team, um, and um, and so they're always just big. Just you can think of high school football, you may not think of at least in Northern California, you may not think of it as being very big. You may think of more so speed and stuff like that. But these guys, their linemen were always like just massive, just like 280 or 280 pounds or more, and just like 6 foot or 6'3" guys, and it was just crazy just seeing that.
any run-ins with obviously Sarah and probably one of the other big high school football programs, De La Salle?
So yeah, we actually wouldn't play De La Salle in preseason football. We'd play them for basketball. So that was interesting. So yeah, so their basketball team like was even pretty good as well. There's a few times I think they went to state or CIFs a few times, and our basketball. I remember freshman year when I played, we all three freshman, JV, and varsity would all go up there. I believe to uh, to play them, and yeah, they had some just from the top down. They had some just guys who would play in multiple other one sports. So they guys that were playing basketball or football players on the team, um, and so on and so forth. And you could just see the level of competitiveness for that team with that even for basketball. Like I know people associate them with being a great football program, but the level of competitive competitiveness was even there for basketball as well. And they had some really hard fought players like just hustle, hustle for every loose ball. Just guys that were wanted to be out there and just were scrappy. I think they weren't the most athletic, not very tall players, but just scrappy and very fundamental.
Any run-ins with any SoCal teams, such as like a Sierra Canyon or the I forget the one, but any other run-ins with the SoCal teams?
um, No, I don't think we did play any SoCal teams. I didn't play varsity basketball, but our varsity teams would always go down to Max Preps tournaments down in Southern California. So um, you know, they played teams like Santa Margarita, and other teams like that. You know, yeah. So like our basketball, Aaron Gordon went to the high school. My sister was in his class, and ever since then, they just he kind of helped put our his brother went there as well, Drew Gordon. But ever since Aaron went there, kind of put men's basketball on the map in a sense. So they go to a lot of tournaments down there in Southern California, Max Preps tournament, the holiday tournament, which is I guess pretty well known for Max Preps tournaments, and they're pretty good.
Totally forgot that. Like Aaron Gordon, like Orlando Aaron Gordon, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
I forgot he lived in San Jose. I didn't know he went to Archbishop.
He was. I went to one. I remember went to one game, and the CCS championship, so the section championship. And it was at Santa Clara University,
Hmm.
and a bunch of people. Like it was packed. Like for a
Like
high school game, like we know that we played. Who did they play against? They played. I forgot what team it was. When I was a freshman, but yeah. So um, just ridiculous like amount of people for a high school game. But obviously they came there to not only watch Aaron play, but the other fans from the other team came to watch. But it was just crazy how packed it was. Our student section was there, going crazy. I think there was a whiteout, as they call it, that game, and just our team was wearing white jerseys. And I remember one play, you could just see he's like 6'8", 6'9", and it was just easier for him to score. He, you know, caught the ball in the post and just was pretty much standing right in front of the basket, just jumps up and does a reverse dunk. He didn't really have to look. Like he kind of knew where he already was, and he just looks up and dunks it, and just the crowd goes crazy, like the student section. And then like there's his shot wasn't very good back then, so his jumper wasn't that great. And every time he would shoot the ball, either if it went, no matter if it went in, I mean, if it went up, he would just easily just get his own rebound, just jump over everybody.
Yeah.
He'd check off the rim, get his rebound, and dunk it back in or tip it back in. I think he had like 25 points or 30 points and like 20 rebounds almost. It was just crazy.
It's easy, like, for fans of just pro level to just forget how good these kids were in high school. I remember watching him. I think he was class of 2013 or 2014.
I think Aaron was actually 20.
12.
He graduated class of 20. Wasn't it 27? He was my shoot. So I went to actually, yeah, you might be right. I think it was 2014. Yeah.
Because I specifically remember just watching all these hoop mixtapes in high school, and I was like, this guy's the fucking truth in this class.
Yeah.
And that was the same thing I had for Andrew Wiggins, Zach Levine, like everyone that they covered.
Mhm.
Even Seventh Woods, even though he's a bust right now.
Oh, yep.
Seventh Woods is a bust. I mean, he was the truth in high school, but now he's a bust. But everyone just remembers just how good they were in high school, and Aaron Gordon is one of them.
Yeah.
Any other players coming out of Archbishop Mitty that we should know?
Um. Oh, Kerry Walsh went there. Yeah. So that's another volleyball. Women's volleyball program is just we're like always there. There at some point they were ranked as some of the best, number one in the nation, and when like they won 5 straight state championships. Haley Jones, who goes to Stanford right now, went there.
Mhm.
She's number one women's recruit. Was a McDonald's All American. Who else? Danielle Robinson played in the WNBA. Went there. We got a couple guys go this year. They got drafted to the Boston Red Sox. He's I think he was a senior. I don't remember his name, but we got a lot of people who go Division Ones or that play, athletes that are able to play collegiate sports,
Mm,
whether it's Division 2, 1, or 3 or NAIA. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, our Mitty's known for being more of a sports decorated school
Mm,
in sports like women's basketball, men's basketball, women's volleyball, and women's soccer and men's soccer. Football, we had some guys that went to University of Colorado, and one guy's in the NFL right now. His name is Tommy Hudson. Went to Arizona State. He's just like a 6'8" tight end. Went to Arizona State, and now he's on the Tennessee Titans practice squad. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm sure there's been other athletes that are old, like that I can't remember. Came out of there a long time ago. But
mhm. So you graduated in 2017 from Archbishop, and then you made your way all the way to small Atherton college called Menlo College, that where you met me and I met you.
Mhm.
Um, what is that experience like? Going to a small school, being a part of a small conference, and being a part of a small league, a private league, to say the least. And yeah, what is it being like a student athlete within college, for in your perspective?
Yeah, so going to Menlo, I knew wasn't my first choice. I wanted to originally go to Chapman University, but they're D3. They didn't offer any athletic aid. Division threes don't offer scholarships like that, so I didn't get an academic scholarship. So, and I wanted to play collegiate sport like ever since I was young. I was just always like I was in high school, just kind of saying like trying to give myself that opportunity. And so when opportunity came around, it was just definitely very surprising in a sense. But also like going to see the school. I knew it was small. I had heard about it before. No, knew it was great for business majors, and that's kind of my previous thought about it. And I just knew it was a good business school, super small. But when I went on campus, it just felt like, in a sense, it felt like very just. I felt comfortable there. Um, I didn't really care much about too much of the aesthetic pieces about it. I heard about the programs there and the majors, and I was like extremely interested. And then just being able to be a collegiate athlete just added more to that, me being interested in the school itself. And I think it's very personalized, and I think that's one of its biggest benefits. Teachers know your name most of the time. You can they're pretty much there for you, all the time. It seems like with athletics, just having the opportunity, like to be part of a collegiate team, or being able to play collegiate sport. You get to travel, uh, you know, work out together, train together. Like I said, it just comes down to like I've always just wanted to be part of that. I knew I wasn't given, you know, the natural talent in some ways, and the natural abilities. But I definitely I tried my best, worked hard, and I was thankful for the opportunity. And like I said, yeah, I think one of the biggest benefits is personalization. Is being personalized. You know, the teachers are there for you. You get that one-on-one interaction with professor. I think the average student teacher ratio or in a class size is almost like 13 or 15. So it's you get that interaction.
100%. And then we met at Stanford. Not met, but you applied to Stanford, got in, and then we started working at Stanford together. I think we already covered that actually.
We have, but what was the other stuff that you've kind of other positions or jobs you've had other than like Stanford during your college career?
So yeah, so see, before college, actually, the summer before. So this is kind of like the start. So summer before, I worked at Finish Line, and it was at one of a mall near my house, and that was like my first real like kind of job, summer job. Um, it was retail is a different beast. It's I feel like people who work retail don't get paid, or certain positions don't get paid as much as they should. You do a lot of work, and you don't really. It's kind of minimum wage, unless you're like I think a manager or whatever. But there's a lot of work that goes in to just someone tells you what they want, and you ring them up on the register. You buy there's stock. I was in the stock room a lot as a Finish Line. Just every day, just didn't get a new shipment of shoes, and I was just in there sorting them out, organizing, and the stock room is huge. So there's a bunch of shoes, like it's ridiculous, like of the same pair and different pairs. And so that was my real first job. Retail is it's there's some certain parts of it are fun. I enjoyed like kind of talking to people about shoes and what their interests, what they wanted to buy, their interests. But no, I mean that was just my kind of my first real work experience. And then on campus, I tried to always apply to on campus jobs whenever they were available. So I worked at the fitness center. Um, it was the easiest job ever. I wish I still did it, but it was like literally our fitness center is not very big, so our campus is super small. So that means fitness center is not going to be super big either. So all you would do in there is you pretty much just ask for someone's ID card. They put it on the table. You just check them in. You just put their name in this spreadsheet, and what time they come in and what time they leave. Um, right, yeah, for the most part. And so that was just one of the easiest jobs I've ever had, and definitely miss it just because I was able to do homework. And you pretty much sit at a table and you just pretty much make sure people aren't doing anything crazy with the weights, put the weights away, clean, make sure you clean the benches off. And I think it was just for me like fun because it was so relaxed. Um, but yeah.
So obviously you're a student athlete at Menlo College. How competition wise, how is it different from that of high school?
So yeah, so in high school, I think for track, you don't go to as big of meets. There's not many, um, you know, level amount of teams per meet aren't. You can't. It's hard to compare because in college, you have to go to invitationals, where there's a bunch of teams. Like, there's certain invitationals. The San Francisco Distance Carnival, Stanford Invitational just has a bunch of teams and athletes from a bunch of events. Whereas high school, I think a lot of the time we had dual meets, so you just go up against one other school in your conference or in your league, and there's not many people watching the meet. There's not as many people per event, depending on how big your high school is and how many athletes are on the team. But I think that's like the level of the atmosphere is different, and I think the level of competition was definitely different. In going to meets in college, people, we ran at meet or we're at meets with junior college athletes. So, every Division two, Division one, NAIA, people who were just there as unattached, weren't part of any, or were people who were part of clubs, track clubs, um, and stuff like that. So, you just gonna get athletes from different. There's just the difference. The amount of athletes. There's a lot more athletes in college, I think, competing at meets. The meets are bigger. The meets are definitely longer. And I think the stage is bigger as well. There's always a lot more people watching, athletes, whether it's your parents or just friends or, overall. At the end of the day, the track is still a track. The lane doesn't really change. Like the lanes aren't any different. It depends on the track. There are different tracks I've ran on, and some have been softer, harder, and it just all depends on the facility. But for the most part, you have your 8 lanes or 9 lanes, and go for it. I mean, that's what I think the biggest difference is. I would just say like the atmosphere, the competition, because you got athletes of all different walks of life, different speeds. They run no matter what. But yeah.
So you mentioned different levels of competition and different levels. So what are the chances of you facing a D1 at one of these invites? Like, obviously, there are some that are specific for the GSEC, some that are specific for the NAIA. Then you have Stanford Invitational that invites anyone.
Right.
Yeah, that basically invites anyone. So what are like what are the chances you actually face someone in your heat that's D1?
I think it comes down to I've actually ran against guys. I think Division One talent at Sacramento State. That's another invitational that um, there's so many heats. I think it always depends on your speed, like the time. If you have to qualify to get into that meet for have a certain time to get in that meet, you have a higher chance of being paired up with Division One. I would say Division One athletes in your heat. It's if I'm running, because I've been at San Francisco State, or sorry, at Sacramento State, that meet, there were people from Cal, athletes from Berkeley. They're just a bunch, like the other Division Ones, Sac State, and I think a lot of it depends on you know, how fast or what your event is and how fast you are. Just because a lot of the events or invitationals we've been at, certain events have certain qualifying time. So, if you're running a certain time, your coach will probably put you in that event, and you'll be able to run at that meet. Um, a lot of the time, I haven't ran against like every meet I've gone to, every at least Division 1 meet or Division 2 school meet. I haven't really ran against Division 1 talent, um, just because uh, they're always in the faster heats. Granted, Division 1 NCAA Division 1 track is just it's like any other. It's just the top of the top. Division 1's athletes are you could see um, you know the difference there. However, with that being said, though, in the NAIA, there are still it's very competitive. Division 2 is still competitive. Division 3 is still competitive. You'll get some athletes out of those ones that are running just as fast as guys who are Division 1 level. Um, it just depends on like the location of the meet as well. Whether teams are in that invitational. Like if I'm running in the East Coast or the SEC schools, I mean this would never happen. But there's guys. There's this. It's insane the difference in talent in Division 1 track. Stanford's not really up there. More so, it's USC and Oregon are the West Coast schools that are the top of track, Division 1 track, and then that really compete with the East Coast schools. Those are like the top two West Coast schools that really compete with East Coast schools, like SECs like Auburn or Tennessee or Kentucky's, stuff like that.
Okay, Chris, can you go over?
Yeah, I got this. We know that you're a pretty big Raiders fan.
Yep.
But is there any other like major sports you follow, or like any major athletes that you follow?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm definitely a big Raiders fan. That definitely runs in the family. But I would say, when it comes to other sports, basketball is my next number two there. So, I think I'm an overall sports fanatic, I would say, but I do root for teams like over others, and for athletes over others. I do like, uh, just player, an NBA player. I definitely am a LeBron fan. Um, just as a player, I just like, um, I just think, I just love watching him play. Just the way he plays, one of the greatest to ever do it. And then as well, like Stephen Curry, just have him being the best shooter, arguably the best shooter ever. He just always has my interest. He will always have my interest. Especially in our generation, just watching him. Because I used to go to games and he used to be on the bench. I used to go to games when they were, had Monte Ellis, Andres Biedrins, Al Harrington, people like that when they weren't very good. So, and then other sports, you know, I don't really pay attention to that much to soccer necessarily. I do like, it's kind of cliche, but I am a Messi fan. Just, I just like, you just pay attention to his successes and Ronaldo. I kind of like those two players. I know they're stars, but I mean, just knowing kind of their accomplishments and what they've done, I just always admired them as well. And just like for tennis, I think one of the, I always root for Serena Williams. Uh, she's like, I know there's male tennis players that are just extremely good, but for tennis, I'd say Serena Williams is like just every time I watch her, it's just crazy just to see how good she is and just she's had so much success. But yeah.
I'm just gonna go back to what you said about the Raiders as the family thing. Can you go on and explain that your whole family is Raider fans, or?
Correct. Yeah. So, see, since I've been going to Raider games since I was, but I think I forgot when my first game was, but I was definitely like around between 6 to 8 years old, and yeah, so like my grandparents on my mom's side are Raider fans, and my dad as well. So, um, I don't know. Like I think when your family, there's more. I think there's a higher chance of if your family, knowing your family is a fan of something, you'll more so I think want to be a fan of that team as well. It's just something about that I think a lot of people, um, can gravitate to. Uh, yeah, I just think going to Oakland Coliseum, just being the atmosphere as well when I was younger. I liked the team. It just felt like they're a gritty, grindy team. They're not, their colors, the team colors aren't super flashy. Black and silver just kind of. I think that was always a cool combination of jersey color. Just going like it started when I was going to games when I was young. That's kind of how I kind of stuck with it and kept my interest. Um, but yeah, like my grandparents have a memorabilia, and then my grandpa has a bunch of Raiders memorabilia. My dad has a bunch of Raiders memorabilia. Bo Jackson, was one of my favorite athletes of all time as well. He played for the Raiders and played Major League Baseball as well. So that's just kind of like where how it started.
Um, Obviously, Raiders Nation is pretty wild. Um, w- do you like the griminess of the fandom, or like where do you think it comes from? Since they moved from, did they move to LA or did they move from LA?
I think they moved
Oakland to LA,
back to
back
Oakland.
to Oakland to Vegas.
Yep. Yep.
Do you think it's just because I don't? Where did they play before in LA?
They played at what's the name of the Coliseum where I think USC played at. I think that's where they used to play.
So do you think like it's a mix between, the Oakland lifestyle versus, LA, like Southeast LA or South Central LA, not Southeast. Like, do you think like the fandom is like that, or do you think like it like the fandom just grew on its own and with like the reputation that it has with its fandom? Like, what do you think about that?
I think man, it's a tough question. I would say I think it has to do with where the team was located, just being the certain city, like how that city kind of, or the Raiders kind of, uh, or the city brought out the identity of the team. I should say. I think being in where it's Southeast LA, where it wasn't, they played at the USC Stadium, which is not the best area. The griminess just kind of like of that city, just like the hardworking blue collar. At least in my opinion, that city's kind of was like that back then. Griminess, blue collar, you know, maybe a little bit dangerous in there. I'd throw that in there as well. Um, just kind of took the identity of the team, or the identity of the team took that identity on. And you think of when you think of the Raiders, you think of the black hole. So like just kind of people that go out are extra about their costumes, just kind of dressed up. It's always like Halloween almost at a game. Someone's wearing like a costume there, and I just think that's kind of like fans are Raider fans are kind of known to be a little crazy, and so I think that's kind of where it stems from. Just the fan base, everywhere you go, if you watch a Raider game, well, at least in the past couple of years, there's always fans, Raider fans somewhere. I think if you saw the Chargers when they played the Chargers back in San Diego, there'd be more Raider fans there than Chargers fans. So you kind of see how the fan base is kind of is all encompassing and just yeah.
All right. So last season was the last season in Oakland, and this is the first year in Las Vegas. How do you felt about that move of like ownership, like taking the team away again from the city of Oakland?
Um, yeah,
Like
I
as a
think that
fan,
was.
like how do you felt like?
Mhm. As a fan, I was definitely a little like I wouldn't say sad. I was just kind of like frustrated. I would say more so just because I felt like there would have been a way to keep the team there, but it came down to the city of Oakland, I think, and then just um, Mark Davis. I think that was where it came down to those two sides not really coming together. Um, and as a fan, I would say more frustrated just because, I want to be able to go to games. Like I can still go to a game. Well, not right now, but I would have to fly, right? And so Oakland's not that far. I guess. I mean, it's not that close, but it's not crazy far where I can't go to a game. Um, and just that stadium was super old. Like the A's played. There was like the only stadium left, and that were sharing. Like teams were like a baseball team, major league sports teams were sharing the stadium. And just I think like if you pay attention or would see the stadium, you could see that there sometimes during the start of the football season they'd have the baseball field that would kind of be still uh that would be still like paved, or you could still see it.
Yeah, baseball season was still going on right at the start of football season. So yeah,
Yeah,
both
right.
fields.
Exactly. And so when seeing that, it just paints a different. It's kind of like where I kind of talk about like the it doesn't look like a traditional football stadium or a football field. So it's like a little grimy, the dirt, the grass, all that stuff. So I kind of like seeing that in a way. Of course, I want them to have their own full stadium and grass and all that. But there's a huge fan base here that I think that when they move to Las Vegas, I'm sure people from Southern California will drive up there. It's not that far. It's like 4 hours maybe, or 5 hours from there. So I think you still get that that fan base. Um, but I think the city of Oakland, just because I think we were the first, the Raider Dust, our first destination was Oakland. Will always just kind of like not be happy about that move. But I mean, from what they're seeing looks like now, it's just I can't wait to go check it out. It looks amazing.
I think personally, like, I think Vegas was a good move financially, but I think it took away the revenue, like the charitable revenue stream from away from Oakland. Because I mean, a lot of people within Oakland could use it, where Las Vegas just puts it back into their casinos and whatnot. That's just my personal opinion. So let's move on to some more news.
Uh,
This past week we kind of talked about it. Chris, do you want to take over?
yeah, I'm just gonna go start with because we are still with the NFL. Let's just talk some NFL news. First off, let's just do the Raiders thing. Raiders players were tested positive with COVID last week, and they had jeopardy of missing the game. Um, how do like we just talked about this earlier? Micah, what was it again? I'm trying to pull it up. Oh, here he goes. John Gruden was livid with the that the game was not postponed because of how many players that were put on the COVID list. What do you thought? Like, should the game been postponed because it was moved from the Sunday night game to just an afternoon game?
Um, it's hard to say because I think the NFL has been kind of more focused on getting games played versus the health of the players. I think I would have been with John Gruden kind of livid. They could have moved it to maybe Monday or switched it like that. But yeah, I think it was kind of a last. I think the four other linemen besides Trent Brown or I mean the linemen that were out, they got the final negative test on that Saturday, so they were cleared to play either hours before the game or whatever it was. But the sad part is they weren't able to practice.
Yeah.
With the first team offense. So I think I would have been with him. I think they could have. I would have been a little unhappy as well. Not a little unhappy. I would have been unhappy as well. They could have moved it to Monday. The NFL seems like they've been trying to that they've done that previous times before. Then moving it a couple hours, before Sunday night. I thought it was just kind of weird that they shifted it up in the schedule versus moving it maybe putting it on Monday. But yeah, I think just to answer the question, I would have definitely tried to move it. Saying it's because they play a Tuesday night. If they play a Tuesday night football game, which is weird, it just doesn't happen. They could have moved that game as well, considering what happened.
Yeah. The Raiders are actually doing relatively well. I'm trying to pull up the record.
Yeah, they're doing all right.
Yeah, the second AFC right now. They were one of the few teams that could beat the Chiefs in the past couple of years. Are you surprised with how well, or just doing pretty good? Like they're right now at 500 right now with the loss against Tampa Bay. But do you think they have that chance to get into that playoffs this year?
Great question. Yeah, I do like the fortunate part about that record is that there's been teams that they could have beaten. The Bills, I think, were one of those teams. Definitely, they could have beaten. And I definitely think they can make the playoffs. I think the defense though has to. I think their biggest issue right now is defense. I think giving up that many yards a game from the opposing team will not, even no matter how many times your offense scores, it's not good to give up that many yards. I mean, as you see, against Tampa Bay, they gave up way too many yards. Seeing them the second AFC West, 3-3, I'll take 3-3. I think coming into the season there, I definitely still had confidence in the team, and I knew they'd their new stadium, I think, would give them some confidence. And then the first time when they played the Saints, the Carolina Panthers weren't as to me it wasn't as a surprise win as the Saints, given that the success the Saints usually have. And I just felt like when they played that game, it was just like they just controlled the ball and didn't make much turnovers. Um, defense still gave up 24 points, but as we've seen, they played the Bucks. You can see the holes in the team where the holes are. Defense, offensively, I think they'll be fine. They keep running, giving Josh Jacobs the ball, and Derek Carr seems to be doing better with deep throws and passing it to wide receivers this year. So, I definitely think they can make the playoffs. Not sure what spot it'll be. I know they have an extra spot this year, but I think they have a good chance.
All right. Maybe we're just gonna move on to a little baseball. I don't know if you followed, but the World Series was just on, and the Dodgers had clinched their fourth World Series since 1988. Do you have any thoughts about that?
So I thought it was great to watch. I watched just having fans, seeing that there are fans at that World Series game. The season was shortened, I think, to 60 games. I'm not a Dodgers fan, but I definitely just enjoyed watching the big events like that take place. I thought it was watching Mookie Betts hit that home run. He's a great player. As a player, I definitely root for him. He's a great player. And just seeing the fans that were there, just being fans on TV, live sports, just cheering for their team. And it was cool that Magic Johnson was there as well. In the midst of like the pandemic and like they shortened their games by 6 to 60 games. I think that was a great, definitely a great. The Dodgers they had a great season. I think you could put an asterisk around this championship for them. They've come up short previous times. I'm a Giants fan, so it's nice to see them lose. But it's great to see them, during these circumstances, just win that. Being a California team, it was great to see.
So let's move into some of NBA news that I kind of found throughout the week. Kyrie was better than AI, in the words of KD, Kevin Durant. Any thoughts about this? And what kind of what they have been saying for like the past couple of weeks before the upcoming season? Like, what do you think about the statement?
So can you sorry, can you repeat that again? So it said AI was better than
Kyrie Kyrie is better than Allen Iverson.
I definitely would not, just on the basis of being two different eras. It's really hard to say who was better. One had a different style of play versus the other. One was the handles were more. He's known for Allen Iverson is known for kind of a crossover, that wide crossover. Kyrie's more got I would say he's more fluid with the ball. Not as violent, just kind of has that ball in a string in a sense. They both did have the ball in a string, but one's plays a little bit different than the other. And then just going back, like I said, eras. It's really hard to say who's better at different eras. Allen Iverson played against Kobe and Shaq, and took his team to the championship. Sixers played against the Lakers, I think, in a championship maybe. I remember Allen Iverson always that one play where he stepped over Tyronn Lue after shooting in his face. And so, I think I think one's a little taller than the other two as well. I'm not 100% sure. They're both point guards, but just the style of play, how they dribble the ball, it's really just difficult to say. And just basically like different eras, just like I said, it's just difficult to say who's better. I mean, I would honestly still go with Allen Iverson is better. It's a different style of game. Back then was a different style, and he kind of was a game changer. He brought like the swag, the off court swag to the game with the tattoos and the baggy pants, the chains, and all that stuff. And so,
Before we move on to some other news, we had an argument after one particular shift, and we were getting a ride home from Austin. And I'm bringing this up because
what's going on here?
I kind of briefly remember this. I don't.
Okay, I'm bringing this up because we're talking about eras, and we're also talking about how good someone is.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I don't 100% agree with it. I was just I really was just nagging on the argument so that,
Right.
yeah. But Austin said that Vince Carter is not that good of a player.
Oh, you're right. He did. He did. Okay. Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
remember
what
that.
are your thoughts on this? I think top 10, not even top 10, number one dunker of all time. I
Yes.
longest player to play in
Yes.
3 different decades. And he compared him to Dirk Nowitzki, who obviously is a different position, but also taller player, has I wouldn't say Vince Carter doesn't have a shot, but I think Vince Carter is in love with the game instead of loving the status of being a champion. What are your thoughts on Vince Carter?
Yeah. I mean, Vince Carter. You pretty much already like said it. Resume speaks for itself. Best dunker, arguably the best dunker of all time. Played in 4 different decades. Like that's unbelievable. Like putting basically put the Toronto Raptors on the map. Remember when putting his arm in the rim, just that just like this iconic, Vince Carter, overall as a player, I still would put him, say he's a great player. I would not, ignore the fact, it's hard to, ignore the fact that he was, as much as he was a dunker, he could still score the ball. Um, and yeah, I mean, just the dude, like, I think he inspired a lot of people from Toronto just to play basketball and like I said, put Toronto on the map in a sense. Yeah, I mean that I don't know why Austin said that. I mean, eh,
He's a
I,
bandwagon.
yeah, I think I mean to know that he's mainly known for that. Played on Team USA, and I think he dunked. He jumped so high, like it was ridiculous. Like his head was above the rim. Like and he was just an overall good player. I mean, he's known for his dunking, acrobatic dunks, but you can't ignore the fact that he could score and he was actually a good player and played for 4 different decades. Like that's basketball. It's not common at all.
No, it's not. Before we move on, I'm only bringing these 2 players up, obviously, because they're on. And we both mentioned, or I mentioned it. Um, Easiest comparison in past players for KD, and easiest comparison for past players or future players, actually, for Vince Carter.
All right.
Just
For Vince,
give me a name for
yeah,
KD.
I'll give you for Vince Carter. Um, as far as acrobatic dunking goes, having that leaping ability, I'd give Jordan dunks to Jordan as far as like acrobatic dunks is concerned. Um, and yeah, Michael Jordan for that, for Vince Carter, and just for Kevin Durant. Um, I mean, as far as length and size goes, and can shoot, you know, there's a score, a premium to score. It's hard to comparison. Who have we think of in the past? I mean, um, you know, maybe Clyde Drexler. Not really.
Ooh,
Yeah, not really a great comparison, but I mean, as far as if I remember him, he was, played on the Rockets and the Blazers as well, I think, and he's just very fluid and very smooth. KD's kind of the same way, smooth. They call him the Smooth Reaper, I think, or something like that.
like that.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like Kevin Durant is just one of those guys that you're like almost 7 feet tall, and you just you can't be guarded. Um, yeah, I mean, he's smooth. I would say he's going smoothness. I'd say Clyde Drexler.
It's a hot take. I never heard Clyde in the comparison with KD before. I think mostly, I think the majority just sees him like as a longer version of Jordan and Kobe because they're both scorers. And
Yeah.
yeah, but Clyde is, yeah, that's actually kind of a great comparison just because of how tall he is. Um,
Mhm.
let's move on to some NBA free agency slash NBA draft. First, let's start off with the NBA free agency. What moves do you think you're going to see of different stars and different players throughout this off season, this short
Uh,
off season?
yeah, short off season. I mean, honestly, yeah, I think they're going to be a good amount, no matter how it's a short off season. I still think they're going to be a good amount of trades. As you've seen even through the pandemic, you could see like what teams had, uh, that still need pieces, and what teams that don't really have, or sorry, the teams that already had like their pieces. that they needed, and then teams that that still need guys. The Magic, I think there's going to be some trades there. I don't know if I don't know if Gordon will get traded, but I think that team, in the East should be at least be a playoff team. They have Vucevic, Aaron Gordon. They got uh, DJ Augustine. That team, came through went to the playoffs. Had to go against the Bucks, I believe. But now the team's got some good competitiveness. They're young and they have a lot of guys, but they definitely had a bunch of guys injured as well when they were in the bubble. So I think there's going to be some trades with that team. I've been hearing some rumors and stuff as well. I'm sure you guys have as well. Like, Chris Paul possibly going to the Lakers. I don't know, just stuff like that. I'm not sure. I mean, it's hard, I think, to say like who could get traded
Because you
where.
have to pay him $41 million a year.
Yeah, exactly. And the Phoenix Suns, people were saying to get Devin Booker out of there. I don't know what will happen with that. I don't think he'll be traded. But I mean, yeah, I think we're still going to see that. I think there's going to see still a good amount of fluctuation still. With guys going to different teams this offseason. It may not be it's probably not gonna be the big stars, but there's gonna be some guys or veterans that go to different teams that can help their team out.
What about the situation in Portland? What do you think they should do there after being eliminated in the first round and not being
Yeah,
able to get over the hump in the past other playoffs? What do you think should happen there?
that's a little tough. Yeah, I think you still got Damian Lillard. I think he's gonna definitely like pretty much their franchise guy. I think I don't think anything's gonna happen with him. I think it's gonna come down to the guys who they have behind him. Carmelo, I think has I think he has a good chance. I think that's a good place for him to finish his career. We could see what he did with the team this year. I think he can still play, and I think that if that team, if he's able to make that squad again, I think he can, do well. I think they're. I forgot his name, Nurkic or one of those guys. He's a good player as well. I mean, that guy you could see when he was in there in the game, he would make a difference, rebounding and stuff like that. He's play defense as well. So it's hard. I mean, they went to I think the Western Conference Finals. Was it or something like that? Right? Was it last year or uh, the Blazers? I think the previous years, 2 years.
Last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think to have being knocked out in the first round it was just kind of odd seeing that. But yeah, I mean, I think that situation, I'd like to see Carmelo stay with that team and for them to keep Damian Lillard and Nurkic and CJ McCollum. I think that's still a good team. I just think the West is getting a lot more obviously it's stacked, no question about that. But I think it's getting even more stacked and just competitive. So I think it's just hard to say. There's a lot of teams that you can look on paper that look like to be playoff teams. Or whatnot, but some teams don't end up even doing that. So,
What do you think? Me and Chris had this conversation 2 weeks ago, or a week ago. Sorry, not 2 weeks ago. What do you think of the possibility, obviously, of CP going to LA, Carmelo agreeing to a veteran deal and going to LA as well?
I see. Yeah, and I see Carmelo more so going there than CP3. I'd say Carmelo goes there because the banana boat. Of the banana boat brother thing. That's just I just kind of.
That was our exact reasoning why they should all go there.
Yeah, I just think that was a good reason for it. And I just think Carmelo, I think has a stronger bond with LeBron has a stronger bond with Carmelo than he does with Chris Paul. I think they came in the league at the same time. They played against each other when one was when Carmelo was on Denver and. I think LeBron was on the Cavaliers. I think, because the Lakers, not to say they don't need another point guard, but they did have Avery Bradley, if you remember, that wasn't there at the bubble. he's all right. He's not that great. But they had Rajon Rondo, and who's still pretty good, can facilitate.
With the biggest shoulders in the world.
Yeah, he does. It's ridiculous. His hands are big too. But yeah, he can still score. And then, I mean, I don't think when if CP were to go there, he'd want to be on the bench. So, I mean, I think there's a good chance that LeBron could try to recruit Carmelo to the Lakers or whatnot, but I don't know.
Thoughts on the NBA draft? Obviously, LaMelo Ball is one of the hottest topics right now, with him possibly going number one to the Timberwolves. But also, the Knicks are looking to go all in and trying to trade, I think, with the Warriors in order to get someone, or in order to get LaMelo Ball and hopefully draft up or trade up. Uh, Thoughts on LaMelo Ball and other prospects as well?
Yeah, so I think Lamelo Ball is definitely a great prospect. I mean, it's easy to compare him to his brothers or his brother Lonzo, but I think he's definitely his own player still. They're both pretty tall. I mean, like 6'5" or something like that. So he's very lengthy. Yeah, he's like lengthy, and you can see he can score. His form, his shot is kind of ugly still, but um, I mean, hey, he can facilitate. You see him play for the Illawarra Hawks. There'll be some highlights of that if you've seen that. I mean, he can definitely distribute the ball and assist. So I think he's got definitely a high basketball IQ, and it'd be interesting to see what team drafts him. And then like James Weissman, kind of another guy who caught my attention, like from Memphis, easily probably the best big man in the draft. I didn't play that much for Memphis, but I think he's got a great chance of either going number one as well, or between number one and number three. Just as Lamelo Ball has a great chance of doing the same. It's interesting to see how the Warriors pick, or the top three, those first three teams pick. Warriors, I'm not sure. They could make a trade for sure. I think. I don't see them. I wouldn't be surprised if they do make a trade with another team, within the draft, since they're number two pick. Um, yeah, I mean, just looking at their roster, they have Andrew Wiggins. Still got Draymond Green. Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson's coming back. They kind of need a big man though. NBA, you still do need a big man. You can't always have a small lineup there. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
All right. That's all of the main topics we wanted to cover, but I think I'm most scared for this part. Usually, every guest that we have them rank a list of top 10, top 20 players within the region that they live, or the region that they play in. So, like basketball and so on and so forth. But this time, we asked you to list the top 10 greatest athletes in your opinion of all time. And as I said before at the beginning of this podcast, it is going to get disrespectful no matter who you put on this whoever you put on this list. So
Micah, are you judges?
I don't judge. I just roll my eyes and I'm like, all right, whatever.
So that's not judging.
That's not judging. It's constructive criticism. But let's just start with 10 and go all the way down to 1.
Okay. I mean, I don't have them ranked. Like when I did it, I just kind of put a list.
Okay, so we'll just hear
top
your
10, like,
10.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just give you my 10. Sorry, I apologize. All right, so one of them. So I'll just say number one. Got to go with Michael Jordan. Just being a basketball fan, that's just like I'm an idol. I think that's for me number one. And then, or I'll just give you 10 and 10 of them. 2, I'd go with definitely Tom Brady. Being the best quarterback, or considered basically the best quarterback as far as if you're judging by championships and success, definitely up there. 3, I'd go for definitely another basketball player. Got to be LeBron's got to be up there. I mean, the dude is sustaining greatness for 17 years. And then for that was 3, right? Sorry, I don't have my list. This is number 4. Number 4, I would say Kobe's got to be up there as well. 5, I'll go with try to go with a baseball player. I'm gonna go with never mind. Let me just give different sport. All right, fine.
Oh, just
fine.
go.
Baseball. All right, I'll just go with it. Let's see, baseball player. I'm gonna go Babe Ruth. Super old, but anyway. Let's see here. Actually, no, I'd scratch that. Scratch Babe Ruth, just on the basis of being African American, being having descent, just being the African American as well, I'd say Jackie Robinson instead of Babe Ruth. Scratch that. Jackie Robinson, the color barrier and everything. I think that's pretty significant. Um, let's see here. That's number 5. Number 6, Serena Williams. Just for tennis, women's got to have some women's sports up there. Women's as well. That was number 6. Number 7, I'm gonna go with. I am not looking at my list right now, but anyway, I'm gonna go with. What I think of. Tiger Woods, golf, got to be up there. I'm not trying to like stick with one sport. I'm just trying to give you a variety. I think there's different athletes of all sports that have, been up there. That was number 7. Number 8. Let's see here. Number 8. Man, this is tough. I feel like I'm forgetting some known guys that I should know, and it's just let's see here. Deion Sanders, prime time, dual sport athlete. Guy was unbelievable on the field. Being a defensive player or skill player. I guess. Almost. I guess could technically play every offensive running. He could have played running back. I know he was mainly a corner. That's what we kind of know him for. But great player. Number 9. Man, there's been some. I gotta go Bill Russell on that list. And number 10. I don't even know, man. Shoot, this is a tough one. There's just so many. Like, it's ridiculous. Pretty much said almost every sport. Oh, boxing. I'm gonna go with the money team. Floyd Mayweather. Sorry, I'm trying to give you variety. I know it's hard. This is a question that's just so hard to answer. Those are my 10, a list of 10. I think that's just just give a variety. I try not to give too many of one sport, but there's just so many athletes that you can really say.
This is a pretty good list. A lot of them, but not a lot of them, but some of them are California kids.
Yeah, that's kind of
let's just go over this. No order, obviously. We made that clear. Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Jackie Robinson, Serena Williams, Tiger Woods, both 6 and 7 Tiger Woods and Serena Williams from SoCal, and also Jackie Robinson from Pasadena. What the hell? And then Iaan, and then Bill, and then Floyd, Money Mayweather. I'm surprised you left Bo Jackson out.
Yeah, that was someone I was going to bring up too.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you left Usain Bolt out.
Oh yeah, I know I was forgetting somebody.
Every single sport except for track, and I'm like, where's?
Yeah, I think I don't know. My brain was kind of going towards the main sport that I pay attention to.
Yeah.
But Bo Jackson and Deion's got those. Yeah, I mean, no, I'm surprised I forgot about. Didn't say Bo, but
yeah.
Usain Bolt. I would say if you're going to take out one, I would say put him in with one of the repeat sports. Put him in there. But yeah, I think just mainly based off of what I pay attention to most. Track is one of those. It's very hard. Like a lot of people don't really know about.
Yeah.
Watch collegiate track races other than the Olympics.
Yeah.
Don't watch track races other than the Olympics in general. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. This is a good list. I mean, a lot of very known people: undefeated Floyd Mayweather, 13 title Bill Russell, greatest corner and 2-sport player aside from Bo and Deion. Greatest golfer before he fell off, Tiger Woods. Greatest female tennis player, and Jackie Robinson, and Serena Williams.
Jackie was a great tennis player.
First African American baseball player in Jackie Robinson. Number 4, scoring an all-time Black Mamba, Kobe Bryant. The King, LeBron. Probably one of the only players to play with one team to win 6 championships with the same team, Tom Brady, and then the GOAT and Michael Jordan. Yeah, super great list. Do you have anything else to say for the podcast and for our fans?
No, I mean, just I appreciate you guys for having me on. I mean, I definitely enjoyed it. I think you ask anybody this question about their list of 10 or top 10 athletes, there's going to be some similarities on there.
Hmm.
You can't, you have to admire some of these guys, like the Kobe. Just in the Kobe. Just especially talking about him, just that preparation, the drive, the motivation, the grind. Just there's some videos I'm sure you guys seen of him talking about just attacking every day, just you gotta just attacking the day and just you know giving your energy to putting your all into something.
Yeah,
I think that's
100%.
yeah, you can't really all these athletes, you could just say that they put their all into it, and their success
Yeah.
showed up. So
Well, thank you, Ian, for being on the podcast. We appreciate it. If you want to be on a future podcast, we will love to have you on a future podcast. With that being said, guys, please subscribe to our channel. Click the post notifications button right next to the subscribe button. Like and share this video so everyone can see it, as well as comment down below different articles you want us to talk about for our next podcast. With that being said, guys, see you guys next time.
you guys, thank you.